You know, some of these things that I will be sharing with you may sound a little foreign, and yet if you do your best to listen with your heart, which I know most of you do here, if not all of you, you'll understand where I'm coming from. Most of my life I was a commercial fisherman in the Bering Sea of Alaska and the Pacific Ocean. And approximately 15 years ago, two elder women showed up in my life. And they were grandmothers, grandmother Falling Leaf Crowfoot and a grandmother Celia Nelson. And they were such a blessing to me, which caused my life to turn around 180 degrees. I realized the majority of what I had been living was a lie. And so I quit my career, my long life career. I started about the age of 7 with my father and became a captain of a 175-foot ship and was making very good money, and my ego was really happy and had all the fancy cars and all the toys, and but it became very clear my ego was running me. And so I quit that career, and I became very passionate about assisting the waterways of the planet. And grandmother Falling Leaves in particular is the one who, she brought me an article, and this article talked about how many toxins were being dumped directly into our rivers, lakes, and streams. And very little was being done about this. So I also noticed myself in a lot of the harbors that I was bringing the ship into, and that the oily sheens on the water surface, and I don't know what it was, but grandmother, she knew what it was. When she handed me this article, it literally lit a fire under my butt. Like, something needs to be done about this. So I started meditating, because the grandmother Celia taught me many forms of meditation. And so I started meditating, and I started downloading. I basically started downloading ideas, information of how to partake in changing these conditions that we've had in our water. In the beginning of this PowerPoint, there's going to be a little bit of drama, and I don't want anybody to go into the drama, okay? It's just some conditions that we're up against, some conditions that we have all been a part of. And my belief is that the key is to always stay focused on the solutions and not the problems. So we're going to start a little bit about what came together and with this is that the problem with the different chemicals that are being spilt and accidents in some cases, but other cases we're just doing it unconsciously. The combination of these chemicals is what is called a chemical cocktail. And these cocktails basically, they become very, very toxic, and they're finding samples in wells that are even out in the pristine waters in Canada, skin samples that they're full of these toxins because of these chemical cocktails. So the whales and the dolphin beings, the cetaceans, are asking us to step up to the plate a bit and to do our very best in any way that we can to help bring balance to all this. So we got to ask ourselves, what are we supporting in our daily life? And one thing that I've came to a conclusion is that just in 1 week alone in America, we go through 500 million bottles of plastic water. And that's why I don't shun it, but that's why I choose not to partake in it. And when you offer me a bottle a little bit ago, it's like, no, it's okay, because I bring my water wherever I go, and I honor the water wherever I go. And again, it's not that, many of us think that this plastic is going into being recycled, but the majority of it is going onto a barge and going to India, and it's going into the landfill, because it costs them more money to make a new bottle than it does, it costs more money to recycle the bottle than it does to make a new one. So corporate America water bottle companies are raking in the dough too, 180,000% profit. So ask yourself next time you support that plastic bottle of water, would you like to be dressed in plastic, first off? Would you like to be sold as a commodity? And the other problem is a lot of this plastic is going into our oceans. And this is causing a real big problem. The North Pacific Garbage Patch, which is about 2.5 times the state of Texas, it's a big gyre. All this plastic is just, and garbage is sucked into this gyre. It spins around, and the plastics are breaking down. And literally, there's 6 times more plastic particles than there is plankton. So this, again, is causing, scientists a couple years ago went to the most pristine bodies of water on the planet, the North and South Pole, and what they found was 80% of the baby male fish were reverting to female because of the estrogen levels. So, again, we can change this, we can turn this around, but it all starts from what are we going to support? What are we going to put our energy to? Another thing that came to a conclusion is that, years ago we got tired of lowering the bucket down into the well and schlepping the water into the house. So we discovered pumps and we discovered pipes. But we never thought about how nature worked when we did this. We didn't think of nature's way at all. We just sought simplicity. Pump, pipe, we can get it to come right out of our tap here. Well, the problem of this is this. If water doesn't continue to spiral and spin, it loses its life force. So pumping water down straight pipes literally causes friction, which strips electrons from the water. It strips the natural magnetism from the water, and it's actually a very masculine, aggressive way of treating water. The key to hydration, which we'll go into later, is hydrogen. When water, just like everything else, there's a feminine essence in water, which is hydrogen, and there's the masculine essence, which is oxygen. So when water is treated in a very masculine, aggressive way, what's happening is, I believe I will be able to prove this into a lab, that the feminine essence, a portion of the feminine essence, the hydrogen, the key to hydration, is leaving because hydrogen gas can go through any material except for aluminum. So a portion of the feminine essence is leaving. And again, we have just overlooked this. There's nothing that we can't change and turn around. We can turn this around. So, so again, it's about copying nature's way, going back to the simplicity of nature. Once we start putting curvatures inside of our pipes, the water will literally spiral and rifle down the pipe. It will take less energy to move it, and the water will be happy when it comes out of your tap. So basically, I come to these conclusions, and I started a company called Vibrant Vita Water 15 years ago. And my mission is to bring viable, healthy water to people on the planet, for everybody to be able to live and have the ability to bathe and drink in vibrant, healthy water. It's our God-given right, and it can be done. We understand these things, these concepts, and we start demanding them in our municipal treatment plants, and we will no longer need the chemicals, which are totally unnecessary. We will copy nature's way, and we will use, there's many different ways we can work with water, as you see, how we can assist the planet's waterways. Just the power of prayer, the power of intention. But it's like our child. We can tell our child, oh, I love you, but you're being mean and aggressive and abusive to your child. Even though you're saying it on occasions, you're not showing it by actions. In my opinion, this is what water's asking us to step up the plate and do. Start showing me a little more with your actions, not just your prayers and your words. So I've come to a realization that water is the most programmable substance on the planet. It's a liquid crystal. And what are we? We are 75% water. The planet is 75% water. So we are a liquid crystal. And so because of the fact that the sensitivity of water is so sensitive, most people, where they store their chemicals, right under the kitchen sink, the very worst place to store your chemicals, because the water is picking up the frequency, the vibration of that chemical by storing it by your pipes. This is truly how sensitive water is. One molecule of water carries 440,000 bits of information. There's literally 440,000 individual panels on one molecule of water. We could be using these in our computers, and we have already, but they can't make money at it. So we've come to figure out, well, we can filter water and we can get out the physical contaminants, but again, what's equally as important is that we remove the vibrational contaminants, because they're equally as important. So people in the city, I know people, oh, I have an RO system, or I have a really good distillation system. But you've only done half of the work, and the water's dead. There's not dead. It's in a state of a coma, is what it is. It's been doused with chemicals. It's been forced under pressure in straight lines for miles. And you filtered it, and you think, oh, I got pure, clean water here. But no, you actually don't. The vibrational contaminants are still in the water, and the water is basically it's in a state of a coma. So how can we take that water out of the state? We can take the water out of the state through many different ways. Through, as you see here, love, power, prayer, intention. Water wheels is something I've recently been guided to get involved into, and the water wheels are one of the simplest, easiest things we can do to help out the waterways in our area. This is a water wheel. This is built with several crystals. I place basically, there's double terminated crystals at these points, and then there's selenite. There's selenite crystals at this point here, and then there's a big double terminated crystal in the middle. And as you see, I have a sacred geometry design, and I'll go into more detail about this in my workshop of how to create one of these. They are shifted 17 degrees to the northwest, and this has to do with the new energies coming in. And I actually just rebuilt this one because it used to be a 6-point, and my guidance is now telling me it needs to be an 8-point. So let's get to the other ways of physically working with water. Everything in the universe is spiraling. The galaxies, the planets, the weather patterns. Look at the rivers, lakes, the oceans, the waters constantly. Rivers are formed like this for a reason. They're formed in a snake because as the water goes around the bends, more and more vortices are creating and spiraling and spinning. This is how we keep water healthy and alive. Yeah, the spiraling energy is going on all around us. It's planets are formed, weather patterns, again, galaxies. It's how the energy the energy comes in through the top of our head. This energy is happening, you can see it. The ancients also called this energy Brill. And I believe Nikola Tesla and Viktor Schauberger and many of the other greats, they learned how to really tap into this energy and harness it. And in nature, we literally have, from my understanding, we have two forms of motion, basically. We have the masculine and the feminine. The feminine is the levitational energy, the ascending, a levitational energy, and the masculine is the gravity, descending, death and decomposing. And nature has this cycle, this flow. It's more of a balance of like 65 feminine and 35 masculine, actually, in my eyes. And so when we start learning to use these levitational feminine energies, which are utmost important, we will be really tapping into some great things of how we get around, how we get from point A to point B, etc. And the toroidal field is another form of energy that's happening within our heart chakra. It's a tube torus. We are a toroidal field. And I also do this with water. So I need to briefly keep moving on. I won't get through this. And so, yes, the vortexing our chakras, it's happening. It's happening with our DNA. This man, Rudolf Steiner, he was the father of biodynamic farming. And, his statement was, as you see here, a vortex with a deep crater, in stirring in biodynamic ingredients. Overall aim is to draw on the super sensible forces from the cosmos and from the center of the earth. And that's what is happening when you create a very large centripetal interwinding vortex. You're pulling in energies from the heavens, and you're pulling these energies in, and they literally go down into the earth, and they go the other way too. These energies go back up the other way. It's not just a one-way thing. Many of my intuitive friends can see this happening where I install these water systems that I've been guided to create. And so here it is. When you make an ampule, what these are ampules. I call these vortex ampules. They're based on sacred geometry, the golden mean ratio. They're a hyperbolic cone. And what you find is, the first one that I installed over an old hot tub that my neighbor gave me, that I refiberglassed and patched together. Anyways, I discovered that laying in there, and I'm going into the energy of this vortex. What I discovered is, if you know anything about the golden mean ratio of 1.618, these bins right here are literally, I got my tape measure out. When you watch this vortex, you see it bend. Okay. So you see this, you can see it more clearly in this one here. You see the bends. If you take a tape measure, you literally see a measurement of 1.618 bigger, 1.618 bigger, and bigger as it goes up a line. So you're literally seeing universal intelligence being born into this. And the reason that happens is because of that hyperbolic cone shape. And so there's some unique things happen when you get underneath of one of these. I can't totally explain it because I don't totally understand. I didn't create these technologies. I want you all to know this too. My mind did not create this stuff. I have been following guidance. And in some cases even thought I was kind of going a little crazy because most of my friends and family were like, quitting your $300,000 a year job and you're moving to the mountains of New Mexico and you're working with water stuff, you're inventing things, and you're not an inventor, you're a fisherman. What are you doing? And I said, well, I'm just following my guidance, and I'm following my heart. And so they kind of pretty much thought I was off my rocker. They was like, well, give me some of those good drugs, Randy, And I'm like, no, I'm actually doing less drugs than I've ever done, and I'm doing pretty good. So, one thing that I've come to realize also is when you drink this really full spectrum, microclustered water that's just been given a lot of love, because I combine sound frequencies, light spectrums, a spiraling movement, magnets, crystals, anything that my guidance is telling me to use, I use. That water literally returns to that liquid goddess state. And it can come from the city, it can come from wherever. It doesn't matter. The codes remain in the water, even though the water becomes like it is in a state of a coma. The codes are still there. Just like we help one another to remember, we forget a lot who we really are and the great magical beings that we all are. Water's no different. You give it enough love, you give it enough appreciation, and you don't just say it with words on your bottle. You show action, and you copy nature's way. In nature, we got birds chirping, we got all kinds of little frogs cricketing. All these little frequencies are going into the water. You got sunlight coming down through the spectrums of the tree leaves, the spiraling movement. All this has such a big effect on water. So this man, Viktor Schauberger, has been a great idol of mine. He was way ahead of his time. This guy was flying around saucers in the 30s, 20s, and 30s that literally ran on implosion energy. And the Nazis took it from him and told him, you better quit making these. But he was very much into the energy of water, and nature was his teacher. His philosophy was comprehend nature and copy nature, and that is what we must do if we want to live in harmony here with one another on this planet. And we tend to think we can outsmart nature. We think a human can be so much smarter than nature, but we have lots to learn there. Remember. Anyway, so in a vortex, you basically, the inner layers are spinning much faster than the outer layers. You have this expanding and contracting action that takes place. You can literally watch a vortex when it's running, and it's pulsating. It's pulsating, it's expanding and contracting, and what it's literally doing is a vortex is tapping into the planet's wobble, because this planet is not spinning on a dime. It has a wobble. And that's why you see these vortexes do what they do when they're running them. Many of you, I wouldn't even need to explain this. If I had the systems here, and someday I will, you'll be able to get in the pools and you'll be able to drink the water and you'll just get it. You don't need to hear me talk anything about it. But there's truly a very in-depth spiritual side to water, and there's a very in-depth scientific side to water. And if I want to touch the masses, my guidance has told me, you must bridge these worlds together of consciousness and science. Otherwise, you only touch a few people if you talk all this spirituality. Okay? So I know this. I know this is how it is. So Viktor stated 4 key ingredients when working with water: shape, motion, temperature, and material. Okay? Water at 39.2 degrees can give more energy and receive more energy. That's why if you go up into a mountain spring, you literally measure the temperature of that mountain spring water. It's 39.2 degrees right in that area. And that's when it can be programmed with what information or even gas. If you want to take oxygen that's been depleted or water that you want to highly oxygenate, the secret is implode the oxygen into the vortex ampule under a vacuum and keep it cold. Then the masculine, the oxygen, can lock more into the molecule of the water. So, so the shape determines actually the shape of the ampule that you either store or you energize water in is your wave guide. So it's the wave guide that sets up the wave form. So every vortex is going to emit a different frequency energy determining its wave guide. And this is, I've played with this for years. It's definitely true. It spins at a different speed. It does different stuff. But again, it's copying nature's way. So as Viktor stated, dead water is stagnant bottled water. It's RO, it's distilled. This water is basically, I don't call it dead because it's not completely gone, but it's in a state of a coma. And most bottled water is actually acidic. So many of us are drinking plenty of water, but we're not getting hydrated. And this is the big issue with overweight, because the body's craving water. So what we tend to do is we tend to eat more food, because we get some water from the foods we eat. But if you just start drinking enough healthy, vibrant, microclustered, hydrogen-rich water, you'd be amazed you don't have the appetite. You don't need it because you're getting it. Albert St. Georgi, Nobel Prize winner, his statement was, hydrogen is the fuel of life. Okay? And oxygen, its counterpart, is the flame that lights the fuel in the body, creating energy in the form of ATP, our body's #1 source of energy. So both are important, but hydrogen is the one the majority of us are lacking. And we get hydrogen from eating food, especially if it's raw. We get less than 1% in the air we breathe. But the main source of hydrogen comes from hydrogen-rich water, feminine-rich water. When we realize this, we will not, 95% of the people on the planet are dehydrated, and this is the reason why. It's because we're not thinking of water the way, in my opinion, we should start thinking about water. So this man right here, Dr. Mu-Shik John from Korea, he was a leading expert in fluid chemistry and dynamics and of water and researched for many years, and he discovered the majority of water looks like this right here. The hydrogen and the oxygen are randomly clumped together. So you have these big clumps of water. And he found that by just spinning water, vortexing it, and combining magnetic fields, that you would turn this water into this, okay, which he calls hexagonal water. The reason this happens is because this bonding angle between the hydrogen and the oxygen of normally 104.5 changes to 109.5 degree angle, allowing these tetrahedrons to form, and then 6 of them come together. So here's now where you get more clumps, and what's happening where you see, again, to the most tap water and hexagonally shaped water, you have a more concentration of packed hydrogen in there, and you have smaller water molecule. It's easier to penetrate into the cell, which again is the key, because the movement of even hydrogen also into the cell does a secondary thing, which is, it's called hydroelectricity. And St. George discovered that our organs have the ability to pool this hydrogen also, especially the liver. So if we get sufficient amount of water, hydrogen rich, the body will start pooling it, storing it in kind of like a gas, in the form of like a gas tank, and it gives it to the body as the body needs it. But again, most of us are depleted in hydrogen. And I believe actually in the prehistoric days, years ago, this is why the dinosaurs and all the creatures back in those days were so big and robust. It had to do with 2 things. They had a lot more hydrogen in the environment that they breathed and in the water, and we had a stronger magnetism on the planet. The magnetic properties. This, I believe, played a big role in why things were so big and robust. So again, these are some of the systems that I've been guided to create, and you spiral the water down, and basically in this system here, I call the Gaia's fountain of light. There's magnets in here, so the water is actually spiraling through the repelling magnetic fields. Okay, and there's several types of crystals I use. I'm a real believer in something called Anchi crystals and magnetite sand. You can use, aquamarine, whatever you like to use, but when you start doing this kind of stuff with water, you give it this much love. Some really amazing things do take place, and I prove this with a device called a GDV. It stands for Gas Discharge Visualization. And what this device does, it came out of Russia from a man named Kortkov Konstantin. And it literally measures all the major organs in the body and what level that organ functions at, okay, for your age. It measures your right-left brain hemisphere, how out of balance the hemisphere is or how in balance it is. It measures your photon energy field that emits off of our bodies, how strong the field is or how weak and maybe where there may be holes in the field. And it measures your chakra systems, how in align the chakra is or how out of alignment the chakra is, how strong the chakra is or how weak it is. So, when I went to do the testing with this, with a man named Krishna Madhapa and Dr. Sam Burns from Santa Bay, when I had a subject drink water from Gaia's fountain here, they did the test on them before they drank the water, and then 15 minutes later, they did the test after they drank the water. Phenomenal shift took place. Absolutely phenomenal shift took place. Right, left brain hemisphere went into balance. Chakra systems went into alignment. Photon energy field is tremendously enhanced. Even they were surprised to see what 4 ounces of water would do to the body, a human body. And I did more and more research after this to validate it. So there's no doubt water plays a major role in our overall ascension process. It doesn't only just work with the physical body, it works with the spiritual, mental, emotional body. And I believe this is why I've also came from this very rugged Bering Sea captain, masculine ego person, to actually stepping into my divine feminine goddess side and honoring her, because this water was doing it. I didn't realize it was happening at the time, but this water was doing it. It was causing this balance to happen in my body. And because it had to do with the brain hemispheres, part of it. So, anyways, if I don't keep going, I will probably not even get close through here. So, now we're going to talk a little bit about magnetism. Dr. Walter Rawls and Albert Davis did 10 years on research on magnetism into the living tissue and to cells. And they found some really interesting things of what happened. I won't be able to go into all of it. I won't even make it through my presentation. But they did find, these are a couple things they found. The North Pole is the feminine, more energy. It's got a counterclockwise electron spin. So when you look at those vortex systems, you got this energy that's spiraling down this way, and then you have electrons that are spinning out of these magnets going into the spiraling energy of the water. And the vortex is acting as a cosmic antenna. It's literally pulling in what I would call cosmic consciousness or Christ consciousness energy. And when you get under one of these, especially when they're suspended by a copper pyramid, and you get under this, I've had people that are either dimensionally shifting or they're time traveling. Okay, there's no doubt about it. This has never happened to me, but what I started doing is when I would get under it, I would just see this beam of golden white light coming down through the vortex and into my body, and I would shoot it. I would build it up into my body, and I would shoot it out of the top of my head like a well, and it would go all around the whole planet, and then it would come back up through the planet, through Gaia, Sophia, back up through me, and I would do 3 times one way, and then I would do 3 times the other way, down through Gaia and up and out and around. And it's a very powerful meditation for me, anyways. And I invite you all to try it sometime because it's interesting. So, moving on. Okay, so they basically found several things with this. It increased in hydrogen ion activity, surface tension changed, decrease in water weight they found. They actually found, they put all South Pole magnets to a cage of little baby mice, all North Pole to this cage over here. They found that these mice, literally, the South Pole mice, grew bigger and stronger, more robust. But they're also aggressive. They would actually sometimes kill their mates during mating. They would kill their partner sometimes. Where the North Pole mice were smaller, cleaner, smarter, and lived longer. So, yeah. But with water, they found, many things about water, but with plants in particular, they found plants don't like North Pole water. They love South Pole water, but they don't like North Pole water. Now, from my research and my understanding, humans and animals, we want a balance of combination of North and South. Right? But watering the leaves with the South Pole water was overstimulating. So, but watering the roots, this is what happened here every time. Every time they did the test, they did many of them, not just a few. So now we're going to go into the sound, the power of sound on water. Sound travels through water literally 5 times. I forgot exactly. It's 5 times. It's way faster through water than through the air. And we don't have time right now, but this man on this YouTube video, he's from New Zealand. He discovered how to boil water in just a couple minutes with sound. A little ball the size of a golf ball, he literally would put in a cup and he would play a sound frequency through that and the water would literally start boiling in a couple minutes. He was on television and he died with a secret in his head. So we have these abilities. A guy named Stan Myers, he discovered how to pull hydrogen out of water really simply with tiny amounts of energy. He ran his car across the United States. we are just scratching the surface of understanding the true power and depth of water. It truly is so much, and very few of us are understanding this, yet we are waking up and remembering. Thank goodness. Okay, so Emoto, Mashiri Emoto, many of you, bless his soul, for he crossed recently, and for his work and what he brought through. But he showed the sensitivity of water with using words on water, using sound, what this looked like, and the effects. How much time do I have left? Okay. Okay, so thank you. So the whales and the dolphins, I want to talk a little bit about them. The cetacean beings have been around me a lot this last 6 months. I've had many people see them. I didn't realize it, but somebody else helped me to realize it. And I'm like, okay, I know they're trying to give me a message of some sort. You know, what's this about? And it became very clear what the message is. They may not stay around here, you know, a lot longer. Hopefully that's not the case. But they are asking us to step up the plate and learn what they have been doing in our oceans to keep balance in our oceans. So it's time for us to remember, because many of us know this. We've done this before. This stuff that I'm doing is we use this technology in Atlantis. I know this. I've had too many people get in my spa, and they're like, I remember this in Atlantis. And I'm like, well, I knew it came from somewhere. I know it didn't come from my mind, and I'm not reinventing the wheel here. So it's definitely Atlantean, and so it's ancient and it's futuristic also in some levels. The Star Brothers and Sisters are assisting me with this. I will say that. There's no doubt about it. And I would just say divine guidance. It's really divine guidance. So again, Emoto's work, most of us know about his work, and it was a great thing for him to help us understand the sensitivity of water. This man, talk about the power of light on water. Denshaw, this man discovered how just shining colors of light onto the body could help illnesses, and it was very effective, really very effective. And the AMA tore his life upside down, because when he started publishing his work and the simplicity of taking colored slides and shining light onto the body for healing illnesses, the AMA is like, well, we can't have this. This is going to cut into our pocket. So, but his work has been carried on, and what I've come to realize is that as we go in the future, we're going to realize we don't need the chemicals. We don't need the fertilizers to fertilize our gardens. What we need to do is imprint the frequencies, the information into the water. This even happens with us. If we need more vitamin C, you imprint the frequency of vitamin C into a live, energized water that's literally in a homeopathic state when you get it this way. And so, if you want more, potassium in your water for your plants, then you literally, what you do is, my guidance was, you take a light called a photon stimulator. What this photon stimulator does is, it literally pulses light through a quartz crystal. And you can adjust the pulse rate from 0 to 40 pulses per second. Okay, and I have 24 different colored slides. So every color has a different frequency, a different vibration that it's going to emit. So if you take that pulsating crystal, which has a fiber optic cord, and you hold it right here to 0 point area. This area where the water comes out of the tip is 0 point area. It's where the water is like, give me what you want to give me. I am open to receive. It's the simplest way to imprint vibrational information into the water right there at that area. And I did find also some research that ideally you want the water to at least spiral through these vortex systems, these ampules, at least 4 times to get the full charge. I learned this from Grandmother Fallingleaf doing Kirlian photography tests. Grandmother Falling was not even a very spiritual woman, but she was a very scientific woman. She would teach me and talk to me about radionics, how to build a radionics box, etc. So, so here we are. We talked about Albert St. George already, and the key to hydrogen and hydrogen pooling. This is some research done by Dr. Jerry Tennant, which I thought was interesting. Basically, when most of us say that we are, you're acidic because you eat too much meat and not enough vegetables, what you're really saying is that you are, you're low on voltage, okay? And how do we get voltage? We get a voltage through electrons. So how do we get electrons? We get electrons from walking barefoot on the earth. We get a lot of electrons from the Divine Mother. We get electrons from eating raw foods, foods that haven't been cooked to death. We get electrons from alive water that's been spinning, spiraling, moving. So basically, I don't have time to go into all of this, but the key to health is voltage. And we have he proved we have electron donors and electron stealers too, so all processed foods are electron stealers. The moment we put chlorine and fluoride in our water, it takes the water from an electron donor to an electron stealer the moment they dump chlorine and fluoride into that water. And that's before it's pumping under straight lines for miles and stripping the other things from it. So, yeah, I'm going to have to keep moving on. I won't get through it all, but... Okay, thank you. So, yes, it has to do with, I mean, if you get nothing out of this talk, my greatest wish is that you really look at water as a living, breathing, conscious, memory-containing being. It is truly the mother of all life. It's our greatest resource on this planet. And if we just start changing our ways a little bit, it's as simple as that. If we just start changing our ways and what we're supporting towards the conditions with our waterways, which we can all turn around. I know this, and we will. We will turn it around. But just ask yourself, what are you supporting? You know, people in the city, they're paying that water bill. So they're paying the bill to have this water that is basically slowly killing them. Chlorine and fluoride does nothing good for the body, and it actually absorbs right through our skin. So even if you're not drinking it, fluoride absorbs into your skin easier and more efficiently, literally, than through your intestines. And that's what's calcifying the third eye, too. And there's people who realize this, I believe, who are kind of a little bit a part of why these chemicals are being put in our city waters. The fluor... bless their souls, but hey, we're waking up. So here we come. With love and light. Not aggression. So anyways, is there any questions anybody has?
Yeah. Has deuterium oxide come into your area of study?
No, I can't say that it has, no.
Water. Okay. I believe the whale nations are crying out about the fact that they've actually tried to mine deuterium oxide out of the bottom of the ocean. Because it's heavy water, it's H2O2. They want to try to use it to spike the water next that we're drinking and so on and so forth. And the whales are crying out about that. So it may be why you're getting whale messages. This is just my thought on that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes. I have came across some work I'd like to share briefly. A woman named Katherine Parker. And her book came out, it's about sacred syllables, okay? And I've come to realize that the power of this work, truly practicing it myself this last month, and it's also putting it into the crystals that I put into the water temples and the water wheels. And you don't have to even say it out loud. And I believe the whales and the dolphins always realize this too. It's not, they're doing things not just when they're making their sounds. They have these vibrational energies that are coming out, because the vibration, first, of love is the most powerful, fastest moving energy that can go across this planet. So, yeah, I think that, well, I have hope. I have hope, even though a lot of things that I haven't liked to see in life, and it became very clear to me when I went out to Maui last year for the first time, to go out to Maui, and my guidance was very clear. Don't focus on the problems, Randy, okay? Just fix it. Just come up with the solutions, okay? And that's a little challenging. It's like, how do you do that? How do you get the message across to people who are not aware of the things, and yet overcome these conditions? I have a great inspiration of cleaning up that North Pacific garbage patch. Not only physically clean it up, but energetically clean it up. Because of all my years of fishing, I did just about all the fisheries you could ever do. And I know there's a way. I have an idea that I know there's a way. That gyre keeps spinning in one direction, basically. It's a big gyre. So if you take a net and you create a net that goes out one direction about 2 miles long, and it only has to be about 10 feet deep. It's got mesh like pantyhose mesh, heavy gauge, and you have another one that goes out this way, and you sea anchor that net, and then basically all that garbage is going to funnel right to you, and you have a craft at the V of that net that's going to be filtering out all these little pieces of plastic and big chunks, all the garbage. It's going to go into a deal that's literally can be, there's technologies now that we can put plastic into something and it turns it back into 3 different types of fuel, okay? There's actually a video of this on YouTube. So these technologies are going to come out more and more, so we can make the fuel right there on the craft. We can turn this stuff into fuel right there. That's what it comes from. It comes from oil is what this plastic is made of. So now we create jobs, we clean up the physical contaminations in the water, and now we start working vibrationally with it too. And now we will bring this planet back to the place that it was 100 years ago. So thank you very much for listening, and it's truly an honor.